we are now being joined by Errol Markoc, a Republican spokesman. Errol, we couldn't have you last weekend. It's good to have you now. I hope the inauguration was a surreal moment for you. You have a lot of work to do now as a spokesman, I'm sure. Well, let's move to the issues we have on ground. What's your assessment of Trump asking Egypt to help thousands of Palestinians from Gaza? And I want you to answer that alongside seeing a peace treaty agreement at the end of this. Is that possible? And how do you think Trump will influence this very delicate process?
It's a really interesting question because it's something that political strategists would not have been involved with. Egypt receives quite a lot of American aid abroad, maybe the second or third largest amount of military aid. So it's a country that we do have quite a bit of leverage over. But the concept of resettling Palestinians in either Egypt or Jordan has always been a point of no contact with the Arab world. I think what we have now is simple game theory with the hand forced by the Israelis. Donald Trump is looking at Gaza in its current state, which is totally destroyed. And the concept of rebuilding that is going to be astronomical, let alone to do it while there's people inside of it. So I think Donald Trump is coming at this like a pragmatist, and that might be uncouth or something that we haven't seen in that area of the world. People have been very willing to let this problem fester in Egypt and I'm sorry, in Israel and Palestine. And Donald Trump is actually looking for solutions, and solutions are going to require the Arab world to change its course. The idea that they aren't going to accept any refugees and they're going to force the issue inside of Israel and mandate a two-state solution. Well, that's great, except that Donald Trump does have some cards to play, and those cards have led to peace before, if you remember with the Abraham Accords. And I mean, Egypt and Israel, going back to Camp David with Jimmy Carter, actually have worked towards detente. And I think that there is a natural proclivity for anybody looking at this objectively to hope that the neighboring countries would help out. I think Donald Trump's going to run into a lot of roadblocks domestically with that, even though these Arab countries are beholden to the U.S. in certain financial and military agreements. There's still, tens and tens of millions of people in Egypt who would take to the streets, and the unsettling effect of this could ripple through the Arab world. So Donald Trump has to be careful not to spark a tinderbox in the Arab world around this issue. But I think one thing working in his favor this time is that the Arab leaders around the world understand the need for some agreements here. And like, if you look at Jordan having taken some Palestinians, if you look at Egypt having taken some, you would hope they would take more. But then you run the risk of a very fair argument being made that, hey, you guys are helping to ethnically cleanse the people of Palestine, not in a murderous way, but literally moving them out of there. And I don't think Donald Trump wants to do that either. So he's caught between a rock and a hard place, where he's looking at suffering and pain on the ground, and he said, I want to help these people. How do I help them? We have to get them out of here. At the same time, once you get them out of there, the argument can be made, hey, you've removed them from their home, and will they be able to come back? And so it's a very fine line. It's going to require a lot of diplomacy, and it's going to require a lot of guarantees from the Arab world to the Palestinian people, which oftentimes the Arab world has been very happy to let the Palestinians twist in the wind as a sort of a tool on the an item on the global board of chess. But I think now is a decision time. These are people's lives at hand. Donald Trump is looking at them like human beings. He's not looking at them like geopolitical pawns. And because of that, I think we do have a chance at peace. However, it would be a very big surprise to me if Egypt was to open its doors and say, everybody from Gaza, come here. That's unlikely to happen without an incredible U.S. pressure campaign. And I think perhaps Donald Trump is going to have to find a blend between all of it, because I don't think also that all those people in Gaza are willing to leave. So it's very difficult. Donald Trump's looking at it again like a humanitarian, which isn't how geopolitical strategists have looked at it. And so that might lead to an interesting outcome. And I think just the historic backdrop of the Abraham Accords gives everybody involved at least the hope that his heart's in the right place and we're going to try to do the right thing on behalf of everybody. But it's a very difficult situation still in the early stages, and I would be surprised if it goes through as Donald Trump hopes.
But do you think that this would, I mean, from the look of things, do you believe that this will end in a two-state solution or unified solution? You know that Trump has a connection with Benjamin Netanyahu, who, by the way, is right-wing Israeli, who wouldn't want to see a two-state solution at the end of the day. But what do you see at the end of the tunnel for this crisis?
I see the only possibility for a two-state solution would require the Israelis actually to make quite a bit of concessions on their side. And that might be possible in if there was a broader agreement with the Arab world, but it would not be something that I see happening quickly. I think we're in a situation now where the two-state solution is going to be amended, potentially to be a new version of it. But what's happened in Gaza has thrown a wrench into that concept so drastically. And if you look at the territorial loss by the Palestinian people from, 1950 until now, they have almost nothing left. So two states of what is the other side of that coin? I think that everybody would like to see a two-state solution, but that two-state solution would require the Palestinians to not almost have a functioning democracy, which nobody wants. If they have democracy, they are going to elect Hamas, which they have done because that's their leadership structure, and those are the people who are fighting for them. And if you're a Palestinian person on the ground in Gaza, I understand how that could be how you would vote. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for the two-state solution, and they're all very non-democratic. So I can't imagine it happens without somebody like Donald Trump coming in and putting his finger on the scale and forcing it to happen. But that again is going to require so much agreement and concessions from the Israelis. I'm not sure it's possible at this time. We'll have to wait and see.
Let's take you on the Republican U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who said he's thinking that pardoning people who went into the Capitol to beat up a police officer violently is a mistake. I wonder what your take is on that. I know that one of those who was actually pardoned said he would rather not be given that pardon because what they did then was wrong. What's your assessment of this?
Well, I respect Senator Graham's perspective, but I respectfully also disagree, and so do the majority of the people I know. January 6th was a dark moment in U.S. history, but this was certainly something where things what actually happened and what was portrayed are two different things. And if you saw the fact that a lot of these people had been, walked in there by the Capitol Police, the majority of these people they weren't beating people with clubs. I mean, there were some people who got involved, and those people have been arrested and detained, and their punishments have far outstripped a lot of these other people's punishments. Ultimately, we see it as a crowd action. We saw it as the voice of the unheard, people who felt that the election was being stolen from them, and they've served time. They've served time in the U.S. prisons, and as much as Lindsey Graham might not like it, that's the will of the people. We elected Donald Trump, and the majority of the country elected Donald Trump, and the number one thing on his list was to pardon the January 6 heroes that we see them as. And so, respectfully disagree with Lindsey Graham. We represent the majority, and the majority wanted to see those people pardoned.
Move quickly to Greenland. That's the update we're getting today, still on the issue of the Greenland. Why is this so important to Trump, despite the Prime Minister of Denmark and other EU leaders expressing outrage over Trump's statements? Plus, what stake or deal would Trump be using to lure the Greenlanders? Is it better subsidies? I know the last time we had a conversation, you talked about, we're talking about Venezuela, but what, big stick is he going to use to get the Greenlanders to agree to this?
Yeah, and two great questions. On the first hand, the interest in Greenland goes back to World War II. Truman offered to buy Greenland in 1951. We've had a strong U.S. air base there and now a space base there. Moreover, you have uranium, you have rare earth minerals, and then most importantly, as the ice starts to melt, you have a reopening of the North Atlantic Passage. And so the value of Greenland as a strategic asset has gone through the roof. You couple that with the fact that the population of Greenland is between 50 and 60,000, and they're all on welfare from the Danish government. It certainly leads to a situation where Donald Trump is not going to send the U.S. Navy or do anything. I mean, our military is already there. Quite simply, I think we're going to ask the Greenlanders to have a referendum. Do you want to continue under the 300 years of being ruled by a European colonial power? Or would you like to join the American empire as a free partner? We would replace all of the subsidies that you've been offered, offer you U.S. citizenship for you and your offspring, and as well as a plethora of other benefits that we could definitely offer more than any European power could. And because of that, I don't know what negotiation Denmark is going to have in this, other than maybe to ask us not to. If the Greenlanders vote and say we want to step back from colonial rule, and they look to the Americans as a new age partner, 21st century partner, we're not there to colonize. We're not there to build Walmarts everywhere. We're simply trying to make sure this strategic location isn't co-opted by Russian and Chinese forces. And I think the Greenlanders are open to it. They're obviously hesitant. They don't want to become a colony of America or become Americans, but they can see that we can offer many more substantive benefits as well as developmental benefits. For a country the size of America, what we could do for a country with 50, 60,000 people would be astronomical. The value they would be bringing into our ecosystem would be so astronomical that we could really, really do some incredible things for the people of Greenland on their terms with their leadership and their drive. So I think it's going to be a combination of diplomacy, and I think just that the ball has sort of run out of the court of Denmark, and it's now time for a real power to take over this strategically vital area of resources and shipping and make sure it's protected and safe for the Western Alliance.
Now to the most controversial issue on the ground, Trump's executive orders. So the Birthright Citizenship was for newly freed slaves to avoid confusion, I believe, after the abolition of the slavery in 1866, because there was one before that now. Because the 13th Amendment explains that, and then the 14th backs that up with the right to be a citizen. Then the 15th gives them the right to vote. So isn't it better to deal with illegal migrants by revoking their citizenship and ending birthright by non-US citizens than go after literally everyone who, has either by legal, standing birthright citizenship, talking about Mexicans that already have a legal standing and they pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get, their citizenship?
Yes, I think that revoking citizenship is probably not on the cards. The situation is simply has to do with exploitation of what is a very unique and special system. No notable country in the world has this policy. If you're flying over the United States and you have a baby in the air, your baby becomes a U.S. citizen, allowing you to then connect to the United States. So many wealthy Chinese tourists have been coming to the U.S. just to have babies. So it's not as though it's only targeted at migrants, but what happens is you have migrant family comes over, they have a baby here in America, instantly that baby is a U.S. citizen, and then the whole family is able to tie themselves to that child to stay in the U.S. And what's happened over the last 20, 25 years is a total exploitation of what was kind of a cool system we had, where it was a little bit of a randomizer. If certain things worked out and you got lucky, it just worked out. But now people are deliberately coming to America to have babies, and that's also increasing trafficking of pregnant women who are asking to be trafficked to America. So you're putting people in danger. And I think it does come to the question, will he be able to get a constitutional amendment? Probably not. But the idea that maybe you need to be a legal resident. It's not as, or you just can't be a tourist or an illegal immigrant and have a baby here and have it be an American citizen. But if you're a legal resident, or if you have a working permit, or if you have a green card, or some way where at least putting some checks and balances, I think that's what Donald Trump is looking for, and that's what the people who elected him are asking for. And so I think that's where this is going. It's not going to be retroactive. It's going to be a progressive idea going forward. Whether or not he can get it through the courts will be very difficult. But he does have a point that we are the only country that does this, and oftentimes it's been misused recently. And while its original intention and everything was obviously for the best and nothing we want to take away, it's putting an unfair pressure on the American working class when people can come over and have a baby here and then get all this welfare aid and assistance for that baby because now they become an American family. Well, there was an American family down the street that didn't get that aid because the aid wasn't, there's too much fraud, too much overwhelming of the system. And I think Donald Trump's looking to bring down immigration numbers. One thing people are coming to here for was the birthright tourism, or what I call it tourism for wealthy people, but birthright citizenship plan is what Latin American people are going through. So I don't think it's going to be an immediate victory, but it certainly speaks to a changing of the sentiment in the United States of America, because it's the first time that this has really been raised as an issue at the national scale, and it's something that a lot of people are finding out for the first time that, hey, this is maybe not being used properly. So how do we ameliorate it? We'll see. Donald Trump's going to have a lot of fight ahead of him for that. And I do not think he'll be victorious in the short term.
And of course, like we already know, that needs like a 2/3 of the House of Reps. But let's move to what you have to say to those who say this opposes what America truly stands for. Isn't America itself a land of settlers? That's what some people say. And of course, they've pointed out the fact that Trump, is he also from America?
Well, Donald Trump's mother is a legal immigrant from Scotland, and I mean, if you look at the founding fathers, many of them were legal immigrants. If you look at many people throughout history, Elon Musk, legal immigrant. You look at myself, much less important, but also a legal immigrant. So America's a land of immigrants. It's certainly a true thing, and the idea that settlers from the American East went west and became pioneers and won the West and built the country as we know it today, that's also true. But if you remember during this time building the transcontinental railroads. The Chinese, they sent over hundreds of thousands of Chinese labor to work on the transcontinental railroads. This was the Chinese government. That labor came here, did the work, and went back to China in great part. And so the idea that we want to have illegal immigration or illegal labor, that's what we're very much against because that's very exploited. America was, yes, founded by immigrants, and it was, kept and won by pioneers, but also by great Americans. And so it's very unfair to conflate that illegal immigrants who've broken the law and come here knowingly to break the law, oftentimes for economic reasons, are the same thing as people who've come here legally. Because back in Turkey, where I'm from, there's a line of people who are being denied at the embassy because of all the illegal Turkish immigrants who've come to Mexico, 30,000, and come into America. Now, I don't begrudge these guys for doing it, but they've broken the law. And they've also jumped the line in front of people who are doing it the right way. One thing America is a land of immigrants, but we're a land of legal immigrants and a land of people who respect the laws in the country that we're coming to. And I think that's an important differentiator to make. We want more immigrants. One of the great ideas we had in the first administration is if we could get illegal immigration down to as close to zero as possible, we could double the amount of legal visas we're issuing to the world. So, I mean, that would be a great thing. So all the people who are following the rules, who are working hard at their education or business and are applying, imagine they found out, hey, every country has double the visa opportunities now because the illegal border cheats have been left away. And those are the pioneers, those are the settlers, those are the people we want to come to America, people who are doing it the right way, who we can vet, who we can know where they're coming from, if they have any criminal history, what they are, not this current system where we have no control, we have no knowledge, and we have a lot of incredibly negative experiences that are making the immigrant experience look negative. And that's unfair to immigrants as well, who don't want to be put in the category as criminal. And I think Donald Trump is very understanding of that, and the Republican Party is very understanding of that. We want immigrants, we want legal immigrants, and we want more of them. And the way to do that is to stop illegal immigration.
Well said. Thank you so much, Errol Markoc, who is a Republican spokesman. You're watching Arise America.